Good afternoon, students. I'm hoping that you're enjoying the first 4 weeks of this class. Can you believe we're in the fourth week? So this week you don't have to do any forums, and so you can relax, and you just focus on doing your week 4 rough draft assignment. And so we're in the second stage of the writing process. The first stage of the writing process was week 2, was when we did the pre-writing. So remember, the writing process has 3 stages. Pre-writing, which is when you choose your topic, write your outline, and write your thesis statement. Then you have the writing stage, in which you transform your outline into a 5-paragraph essay rough draft. And so in week 4, that's what you're doing. You're going to transform your outline into a 5-paragraph essay format. Now, if you want to see what an APA paper looks like, and I've actually told several students this, all you have to do is type in these exact words: Diana Hacker sample APA paper. And then you can download that APA paper, and then you can see exactly how to do APA. Now, APA stands for American Psychological Association. And APA is a notation system that you use whenever you cite sources, especially when you cite numbers. Any kind of number. That's easy to remember. Any kind of number, scientific fact, medical fact, historical fact. And I'm going to go over more about APA in the second half of this class. For your Essay 1, using an APA source is optional. For your Essay 2, starting in week 7, then you have to put in at least one APA source in-text citation and one APA reference citation. And so this week, I want you to focus on writing a really good rough draft. Make sure that you have the same font throughout your paper. Indent 5 spaces, the first line of every paragraph. Double space your paper, and you double space your paper by just simply you select all of the text, and then you press Control-2, and then instantly everything becomes double spaced. And then you can make sure that your thesis statement is the last sentence of the first paragraph, and make sure that you have and that your thesis statement is also the first sentence of the last paragraph. A lot of students have gotten a low grade on their rough draft because they confused a narrative story with a narrative essay. A narrative story is what you write when you write a book, when you write a story for, when you write a story for a book and for a movie. But an essay is what you write when you write a research paper. And so when we write an essay, we have to have an introduction, a 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. So when we write an essay, we are making a claim, and then we back up that claim with credible evidence. And the credible evidence is in your body paragraphs. Your body paragraphs proves your claim is true. Whereas when we write a narrative story, we're just telling a story of a chain of events, usually in chronological order, of what happened to us. And so when we write a story, that's what you see in literature, in creative writing. And then when you write an essay or an academic paper, that's what you see in what you write for your research papers for college. So that's the difference between creative writing, which is when you write a narrative story, and a narrative essay is when you write the introduction, the body paragraphs, and the conclusion. In other words, you make a claim and prove it to the world. That pretty much sums up what an essay is. So for Essay 1, I will go over more about writing in the second half of this lecture. Right now, I'm going to wait until, see if any students show up and see if they need any help. If not, I am going to start the Week 5 quiz prep. And your Week 5 quiz is going to be mainly about punctuation. And you have to be able to tell, you have to have the opening quotation marks and ending quotation marks. So, and I have other week 5 quiz preps already on my home page. So it's up to you which, I do the same every week 4 of every class. I pretty much do the same lecture for week 5 prep. So you can watch any different semester. If you miss a semester, you can just go to week 4 to find quiz 5 prep. So all you got, and just like with week 2 was quiz 3 prep. So without further ado, I will start the quiz 5 prep. If nobody shows up right now needing help. Okay, so right now I'm going to go to share screen. Let's see if I can share this. There it goes. Share screen, and then I'm going to share my screen. Okay, there you go. And so this is the week 4 instructor session, and I'm going to go over week 5 quiz prep. I'm going to go over the week 5 practice, then we're going to go over a week 5 practice quiz. Then I'm going to teach you how to do the week 5 peer review forum practice, and then we'll go over the week 4 rough draft. And so if you're lost on how to do everything, this is what my Zoom recordings are for, so that you can keep up with your assignments and understand how to do your quiz prep, and how to do your forums, and how to do your writing. Week 5 quiz prep. Study this before you take your week 5 grammar quiz. So use quotation marks around dialogue. You need a beginning and ending quotation mark around dialogue. Use italics around movie titles, book titles, or any other titles. Titles need to be italicized. Remember these 2 rules. They are crucial for this quiz. Use of quotation marks for dialogue. Quotation marks are used to quote dialogue. You must use both the beginning quotation mark and ending quotation mark around a dialogue. So here, John says, Michael is here. You're missing an ending quotation mark, so this is not a correct sentence. John says, Michael is here. You're missing a beginning quotation mark, so this sentence is not correct. John says, comma, you have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark and a period. So this is correct. Your quiz question will look like this. Is this a correct or incorrect sentence? Is there a missing quotation mark? A. Martha claims George is home. This is incorrect because it's missing a beginning quotation mark. Martha claims George is home. This is incorrect because it's missing an ending quotation mark. Therefore, the correct sentence is C, because you have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark around your dialogue. So on the quiz, watch out for incomplete quotation marks. There are a lot of quiz questions like this. You must have both quotation marks around both sides of your dialogue. So here is an actual quiz question. Why are these sentences wrong? In Jason Bourne, Nikki Parson tells Jason, remembering everything doesn't mean you know everything. So here you have a beginning quotation mark, but it's missing an ending quotation mark here. In Bourne Identity, Nikki Parsons tells Jason, and here you're missing a beginning quotation mark. Oh, and you're missing an ending quotation mark. In other words, this sentence is missing quotation marks completely. So this is incorrect. This one is correct because it has a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. So my dad's favorite saying is, don't pull tomorrow's cloud over today's sunshine. Where is the missing quotation mark? And the answer is before don't, because here, before the word don't, you're missing the beginning quotation mark. You need to italicize titles. Not only do you need both quotation marks around each quotation. For example, this is correct. Find a truly original idea. It is the only way I will ever distinguish myself. It is the only way I will ever matter. John Nash moans in A Beautiful Mind. So A Beautiful Mind, it was a great movie, was this is a movie title. So when you have a movie title, you have to italicize it. Here you have Gone with the Wind. So here you have to use an italicize for Gone with the Wind. This is incorrect because Gone with the Wind, the movie title, is not italicized. What is wrong with these sentences? So remember that titles have to be italicized. So The Devil Wears Prada, look at that. It's not italicized. So therefore that sentence is wrong. But this sentence is correct because here the title, The Devil Wears Prada, is italicized. Quiz question. Which one of these sentences are correct? The devil wears Prada, that's not italicized, so this sentence is incorrect. Here, the devil wears Prada, this sentence is not italicized, it's incorrect. And this sentence is missing everything. The title is not italicized, and you don't have a beginning quotation mark, and you're missing an ending quotation mark. And so, which of the sentences are correct? They're all incorrect. Every single sentence has a mistake. So if every single sentence has a mistake, which of these sentences are correct? The answer becomes none of the above. So in this quiz, you have to look carefully to see if the dialogue has a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. If the dialogue is missing any of its quotation marks, then that sentence is wrong. And if the title is not italicized, then that sentence is wrong. So this is why quiz 5 is about punctuation. Singular and plural subjects in sentences. What is a plural subject? Plural subject means more than one of something. And so coats is a plural subject. And then a singular subject means you just have one of something. The coat is old. And then plural subject, coats are used in the winter. And when we have a plural subject, we do not put an apostrophe S there. That's really important to remember. We just put simply an S when we want to make something plural. Is this a singular or plural subject? And because you see an S, more than one book, then you know that it is a plural subject. Which sentence demonstrates a plural subject? So all you have to do is look for the S. And here you see the S. The coats were packed away for summer. So that means that this is the plural subject. If you don't see an S, then that means it is a singular subject. That means only one coat. And when you have a plural subject, more than one coat, many coats. Capitalization in sentences. Capitalize famous names and titles. Capitalize proper nouns. So here is wrong. The French people live in France. So you have to capitalize the names of people, places, and titles. So French is a title of what kind of people, and France is a place. So you have to capitalize famous names, titles, and places. Uncle Bob lives in Kansas. So Uncle Bob is somebody's name. So therefore you have to plural, make plural Uncle Bob. So here you make plural, not make plural, you capitalize uncle and you capitalize Bob. And here you have a place. You have to capitalize French and capitalize France. President Lincoln is somebody's title. So therefore you got to capitalize President and capitalize Lincoln. 16th U.S. President. This is somebody's title. Therefore you have to capitalize 16th U.S. President. So this sentence is incorrect because nothing is capitalized. President Lincoln is the 16th U.S. President. And so President Lincoln needs to be capitalized and 16th U.S. President needs to be capitalized. My uncle lives in Kansas. Well, uncle is just a regular noun. A noun is a person, place, or thing. And unlike this one where you say Uncle Bob then you know which uncle it is, right? Uncle Bob, Aunt Kathy. Then you, if it has a name, like Uncle Bob, then you capitalize it. But no name, just simply my uncle, my aunt, my brother, my sister, we do not capitalize that, okay? That's the difference. A lot of people get confused. So if it's just your uncle and you don't know which uncle it is, you don't capitalize it. We always capitalize I. So I see this as a common mistake in the forums. I guess because people are so used to texting. So it becomes a habit. So when we write I in the forums, you need to remember to capitalize your I. A slightly more peaceful France was restored when Napoleon Bonaparte rose to power in 1799. And so here, this is a correct sentence because France needs to be capitalized and Napoleon Bonaparte needs to be capitalized because it's a place and this is a name of a person. The grandchildren show great respect for Grandma Janet, and because Grandma Janet is someone's name, it's a proper noun. So proper nouns are names and titles, always needs to be capitalized. My grandma was great. Her name was Grandma Nai Nai, that's how you say it in Chinese. And so Grandma Nai Nai is somebody's name, and so you have to capitalize it. What is wrong with these sentences? I love my Uncle Bob because he always makes me laugh. Here, uncle needs to be capitalized because you know which, it's somebody's name. So once again, when it's somebody's name, you need to capitalize uncle. So that's what's wrong with this sentence. When I missed the bus, I called for a taxi instead. So here I needs to be capitalized. You always capitalize names of countries and names of famous people. Well, people in general. In your opinion, which sentence shows proper capitalization? However, he quickly declared himself Emperor Napoleon I, and in 1812 led a French invasion of Russia. Now this is incorrect. And what's incorrect about it? Emperor needs to be capitalized. So whenever you have someone's title, like president, king, emperor, uncle, aunt, professor, Professor Yvonne, Professor Ho, Professor Smith, Emperor Napoleon I, Aunt Catherine, Empress Catherine, Queen Elizabeth, all of those titles need to be capitalized. Or Prime Minister Boris Johnson, everything, all those titles need to be capitalized. The French invasion was not a success, and so you have to capitalize names of countries. So the French invasion, the Spanish invasion, the British invasion, the Chinese invasion. So anytime you have a name of a country or a name of an ethnicity, you have to capitalize it because it's a proper noun. In your opinion, which sentence shows proper capitalization? However, he quickly declared himself Emperor Napoleon I, and in 1812 led a French invasion of Russia. So remember, you have to capitalize French because it's the name of a country, and you have to capitalize Russia. It's the name of a country. So A is incorrect. You need to capitalize Emperor Napoleon. So this sentence is incorrect. However, he declared himself, and this is incorrect because this is not capitalized. French is not capitalized. So therefore, which sentence shows proper capitalization? None of the above. All of these sentences are incorrect. Okay, all of these sentences have a mistake. What is wrong with these sentences? President Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. And so here, this sentence is wrong because you have to capitalize President. So you got to capitalize titles like 16th President of the United States. So this sentence is wrong. President Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. You have to capitalize words at the beginning of a sentence. So this, and you got to capitalize titles. So therefore, this sentence is wrong. So it's correct when you say President Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States. Comma usage. For a lot of you, comma usage is a common mistake in your essays. And so when a dependent clause comes at the beginning of a sentence, use a comma. When a dependent clause comes at the end of a sentence, you do not need a comma. What is a dependent clause? A dependent clause is an incomplete thought. In other words, if I simply say, when John goes to the store, that's not a complete sentence because it's not a complete thought. So when you have an incomplete sentence, that's known as a dependent clause. He wears his mask. When you have a complete thought, that's known as an independent clause. Okay, that means that it can stand alone. When you combine a dependent clause together with an independent clause, that's called a complex sentence. And when the dependent clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, you need to put a comma. However, if the dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, you don't need a comma. So when John goes to the store, comma, dependent clause, he wears his mask, independent clause, and you put a comma there. John wears his mask, independent clause, and here the dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, so you don't need a comma. The exception to this rule is adjective clauses, that, which, who, whose, whom. Jack, who is French, speaks French, okay? So here you have two commas. So when you have a who adjective clause in the beginning of the sentence, you need two commas. And if you have any of these an adjective clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, you need two commas, and if the adjective clause comes at the end of the sentence, you only need one comma. Okay, so the table which is antique. Okay, here you have an adjective clause because which is antique describes the noun table. So the table which is antique is the same thing as saying the antique table. Okay, is made of wood. Subordinating and coordinating conjunctions. I walk the dog. I chew gum while I walk the dog. So I walk the dog is an independent clause because it is a complete thought. While I walk the dog is a dependent clause because it is not a complete sentence. So when a dependent clause comes at the end of the sentence, you do not need a comma. So here's some more examples of while I walk the dog, comma, I chew gum. I chew gum is a simple sentence, and then when you combine a dependent clause with an independent clause, it becomes a complex sentence. Since I became a nurse, comma, I feel fulfilled. While I was growing up, comma, I always wanted to be a nurse. So while I was growing up, while growing up, and growing up are all the same, okay? You always have to put a comma when any of these clauses, when any of these dependent clauses come at the beginning of a sentence. As a nurse, comma, I have a job with benefits. So when you have an introductory clause at the beginning of a sentence, you have to have a comma. So what's wrong with this sentence? When I walk the dog needs a comma. And then it's correct. And you see the squiggly line go away. I chew the gum when I walk the dog. Here you do not need a comma. Although John is fat, he eats very little. This is correct because you have a dependent clause at the beginning of the sentence, and then you put a comma, and then John eats very little, although he is fat. So when you have a dependent clause come at the end of the sentence, then you don't need a comma. Quiz question. When Karen's mother returned to college this year, the entire family had to help out with the housework. Where is the missing comma? So remember, I just told you that when the dependent clause is at the beginning of the sentence, that's where we put the comma. So when Karen's mother returned to college this year, comma, the entire family had to help out with the housework. So therefore the answer to this one is after year, okay, because that's where you have the dependent clause. So at the end of the dependent clause in the sentence is where you put the comma. So when Karen's mother returned to college this year, comma, the entire family had to help out with the housework. So after year. So here the answer would be A, after year. So comma usage in adjective clauses and or relative clauses. Relative clauses, also known as adjective clauses, modifies the noun it describes. If the adjective clause, that, which, who, whose, is located in the middle of the sentence, use 2 commas. If the relative clause is located at the end of the sentence, use 1 comma. So here's an example. And we use which when we talk about things, and which is more formal than that. So if you have a choice between the table which is made of wood, the table that is made of wood. So if I'm talking to my friends, I would say the table that is made of wood, because that is more informal, more conversational. But if I'm going to write a paper, I would write the table which is made of wood, because that's considered more formal English. And then we use who for people only. If the adjective clause is at the beginning or middle of the sentence, it takes 2 commas. So the cactus plant, comma, which is sold at high prices, comma, is rare. So the cactus plant, comma, which is sold at high prices. So here you have to have a comma before the relative clause, and you have to have a comma after the relative clause. If the relative clause, if the adjective clause, okay, relative clause, adjective clause, same thing. If the adjective clause is at the end of a sentence, it takes only 1 comma. So I bought a rare cactus plant, and then comma, which is sold at high prices. So when the adjective clause, the which clause, is at the end of the sentence, you only use 1 comma. When you have a relative clause that is not necessary to the sentence, then use commas between the relative clause. So what do I mean by not necessary to the sentence? In other words, if it's not necessary to the overall meaning of the sentence. In other words, if I take out that clause, it won't change the meaning of the sentence. So large cactus plants are being stolen from national parks and protected areas. That is the complete independent clause, complete thought. If I were to take this out, it doesn't matter, right? So that's why we can have, that's why we use the commas. We always use 2 commas if it's not necessary. So if you want to learn more about this, you can look up a positive. You can look up a positive or restrictive and non-restrictive adjective clauses. Okay. So if you want to look up more about this particular grammar rule, you could look up what is an appositive or what is a restrictive and non-restrictive, either adjective or relative clause. That's all the same thing. So you can look that up. A quiz question. Large cactus plants, which now sell for very high prices, are being stolen from national parks and protected areas. Where do we place the missing comma? So here we know that if which is at the beginning of a sentence, then we have to have 2 commas. So we have to have here is a comma, and which are being stolen from national parks. Okay, which are, that has to be over here, after prices. There we go. So large cactus plants, which now sell for very high prices, comma, are being stolen from national parks and protected areas. So after you put in the commas, where are they located? After the word plants and before the word prices. So that means the answer is A, after plants and before prices. So here, the A is the correct answer. So let me take this out so that the future students can use the same lecture notes. The demonstrators protesting nuclear arms carried signs reading, "Humans have never invented a weapon, that or which they haven't used. Where is the missing comma?" And so here, the demonstrators, so here you have the two commas, okay, because here you have the demonstrators which are, or who are, protesting nuclear arms, carried signs reading. And so the answer is humans have never invented a weapon, and then comma. You only need one comma if the dependent clause is if you have a that or which. Remember that when you have that exception to the rule. And if you have a relative clause at the end of a sentence, you only need one comma, and if you have a relative clause at the beginning of the sentence, you need two commas. So that's why B is the correct answer. So correct sentence. The demonstrators protesting nuclear arms carried weapons, carried signs reading, "Humans have never invented a weapon, comma, which they haven't used." So here we put weapon, comma, which they haven't used. Note that which and that and which actually have the same meaning. It's just that which sounds more formal than that. So if I were to say, "The person that is smart gets good grades." So here, when the relative clause is at the beginning of the sentence, we use two commas. And here we use, if we're talking to our friends, we use that. And if we're going to write for our teacher and use formal English, we use who. Same thing with table. If we're going to use, we use that if we're talking to our friends, and we use which if we're using formal English. So this is the difference between that and which and who. So which is used for things, but that can be used for things and people. And that is more informal than which or who. So if we want to be formal, we would use who and which in our writing instead of that. Comma usage after coordinating conjunctions, fanboys, in compound sentences. So a compound sentence is when you have two sentences joined by a coordinating conjunction. A compound, the word compound simply means two sentences. It means two of anything, actually. So if I say compound subjects, that means two subjects. If I say compound verbs, it means two verbs. And if I say compound sentences, that means two sentences. And so as the second, so you got three kinds of sentences in English. Simple sentence, subject, verb, object. Compound sentence, in which you have two sentences joined by a coordinating conjunction, fanboys. And the third kind of sentence, complex sentence, is when you have a dependent clause and an independent clause joined together. And so those are the three kinds of the three main kinds of sentences in English. So when we have here I mixed it up, trying to ask you which is a compound sentence and which is a complex sentence. When you have coordinating conjunction in the middle of two sentences, you need to place a comma before fanboys. That is also a common essay mistake. So here, John is smart, comma, but Mary is stupid. So that is an example of a compound sentence. John gets good grades, comma, for he studies hard. Another meaning for the word for is because. So in this sentence, the word for is used to mean because. And in British English, they use for very, very frequently like this. But American English, not so much, okay? In American English, we tend to say something like, John gets good grades because he studies hard. But in Britain, they tend to say, John gets good grades for he studies hard. And can you guess which one of the two is more formal? British English around the world is considered more formal in general and more correct than American English. American English around the world is considered conversational and casual, just so that you know if you travel. Steve eats very little, okay? Steve eats very little, comma, yet he is overweight. So here you have an example of a compound sentence. John eats dinner at Steve's house, comma, and he loves to play the piano. That is also an example of a compound sentence because you have two sentences joined by the coordinating conjunction fanboys, and the comma always goes before the fanboys. Mary is tall, comma, but John is short. John is fat, but he eats very little. And so instead of saying but all the time, you can use a transition word of opposition. So I use one of them, but there are like so many transition words of opposition. So I suggest that you go to Google and you Google yourself transition word list. And on that transition word list will list for you at least 10 or 15 different ways to say but. So instead of saying John is fat but he eats very little, you can say John is fat, however, he eats very little. And notice the different kinds of punctuation. Okay, you can have John is fat, period, however, comma, he eats very little. So that means that when the reader reads that sentence, he's going to read it like John is fat, you know, you wait a while, and then you go, however, he eats very little. Because when you end something with when you end a sentence with a period, that's final. But if you end the sentence with a semicolon, that means you're trying to continue the sentence. So the reader is going to read it as John is fat, however, he eats very little. That's the difference. So you as the writer have the choice to determine how your reader reads your essay just by changing your punctuation. That's called writing style. This is why really good writers know how to write very well and manipulate in a way their reader's reading style because of their punctuation. Alright, so here is a quiz question. I had left my wallet on the store counter, but the clerk called me home to say that it was safe. Where is there a missing comma? Remember, I just finished saying that before fanboys in a compound sentence, you need a comma. Remember, Mary is stupid, comma, but John is smart. You need a comma before but. So this sentence is missing its comma. So therefore, the answer is, where is the missing comma? The missing comma is after the word counter. Because when you have fanboys, you need a comma before the fanboys. Remember, fanboys stands for and nor, but, or, yet, so. Say that 5 times fast in front of a mirror without looking at the paper, and then you can memorize it. Fanboys. Contractions. So the difference between a contraction is instead of saying the I am, he is, she is, they are, we are, it is. When people are talking, then and they're being very casual, when people are talking and being very, very casual with their friends and family, people tend to shorten what they say. And instead of saying I am smart, people will say I'm smart, he's smart, she's smart, they're smart, we're smart, you're smart, it's a nice day. And a common mistake here is that people would forget to, so when you have a contraction, you need to put in an apostrophe. And so here the mistake is the person forgot to put in the apostrophe S. It's a nice day. So if you write in it's a nice day, this is incorrect. So the correct way is you have to use the contraction it's a nice day. The dog wagged its tail. We don't need a comma, apostrophe there because in this case the its is a possessive pronoun. In other words, it shows possession of whose tail is wagging. It's not my tail, it's the dog's tail. So here you have a actual quiz question. Which one is correct? You're crazy to go into the seawater in the wintertime, or you're crazy to go into the seawater in the wintertime? And so here, people confuse you are and your. So you want to say your. In other words, you apostrophe R-E. Crazy to go into the seawater in the wintertime. Whereas the word your, this one, Y-O-U-R, that's a possessive pronoun showing possession. Your desk, your pencil, your paper. So that becomes somebody's something. Somebody owns it. So here it's you are crazy. And here, your wallet is filled with money. So in this case, Y-O-U-R shows possession. It's known as a possessive pronoun. So here you would be Y-O, that person's, in other words, that person's wallet is filled with money. Here, you are wallet doesn't make sense. You got to remember that apostrophe R-E stands for you are. So it doesn't make sense to say you are wallet is filled with money. So this is not correct. I am sure you are or you're going to think I am crazy. Choose the correct word to complete the sentence. So I am sure you are going to think I am crazy. So the correct answer is you are or you're. Either one. Okay? You are or you're. If he understands the circumstances, he'll make the correct choice. So you want to choose the correct word to complete the sentence. So is it he's makes the correct choice or he'll make the correct choice? And so here you want to write he apostrophe LL, make the right choice, because he'll stands for he will. So remember that we use contractions in informal English when we speak to our friends and family. But when we write our papers, we should write out our contractions so that our papers sound more like formal English and sound more professional. So avoid using contractions in your academic paper as they sound too conversational. Instead, write out your contractions to make your writing sound more professional. So instead of saying, I can't make it to the appointment, say instead, I cannot make it to the appointment. And so the second one sounds so much more credible and professional. When to spell out numbers. So when we have numbers like he has 536, in other words, if the word of the numbers show, let's see, where did I put it? All right, so we spell out numbers if we have more than 2 words. If there's more than 2 words, we write out the number. So here, 500, when I say more than 2 words, so when you have more than 2 words, write the actual number, like 236. All right. So when you have less than 2 words, then you write out the number. You spell out the number. I guess the best way of saying it is spell out the number. All right. And so if it's, in other words, 236, you just write 236 people attended the conference. But when you have less than 2 words, then you're going to write it out. 10 people attended the conference. I don't know why the rule is not written out, but anyway, that's beside the point. So in your quiz, they're going to give you something like this. And they're going to ask you, is that correct or incorrect? That's not correct, because here you have less than 2 words. So when you have less than 2 words, you spell out, when you have less than 2 words, you write it out. What's the best way of saying? You spell out the number. You write out the number in an actual word, okay? And so if I wanted to say something like 236 people attended the conference. That's wrong, because when you have more than 2 words, so here you have 200, that's 1 word, and 36, that's, 2 is 1 word, 100 is another word, 30 is another word, 6. Here you have 4 words. So when you have more than 2 words, you got 4 words here, then you write out the actual number. You write out the actual what? Write out the actual number. Digit, I guess. Yeah, okay. Write out the actual number or digit. So this is correct. So if we wanted to say 236, so that's correct, and that's correct. And then that's how you do it. So here you have more than 2 words, 536. So you write out the number because it's more than 2 words. He has 536 papers to grade. And in case you don't believe me, 5, that's 1 word, 100, 2 words, 30, 3 words, 6, 536. So that's not correct. So since this is like 4 different words, and it's more than 2 words, we write out the number 536. However, if I simply say 30, he has 536 papers to grade, and so this is wrong, and this one is correct. All right, so this one is wrong, and that's correct. And same thing with this. We write out the number. All right, you write out the number when it's long, and then you that kind of stuff. So spell out the numbers that are fewer than 3 words. Oh, okay, 3 words. But anyway, all have here. I have 72 shoes. I have 72 shoes. Which one is correct? And since it has less than 3 words, I have 72 shoes, then the second one is correct, because you have 2 of them. It's less than 3 words, so therefore B is correct. 72, which is fewer than 3 words, so it needs to be spelled out, 72. So B is the correct one. However, if you're going to use numbers to show dates, times, addresses, in other words, write out the actual numbers if you're using dates, times, addresses, percentages, and chapters of books. So here you have chapter 2, October 31st, 2021, 1000 Bateman Avenue, or 45%. So select which sentence contains the correct use of numbers. So when you have large numbers, that's another way of remembering. If you have a large, long number, then we tend to write it out. If it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we don't write. We just write out the words, you know. So she has $1,345. So here we write out the number. So we write out numbers if more than 3 words. She has $1,345 is not correct, because when you have a large number, you have to write the digit. So you write the digit if it's a large number, and then if it's a small number, less than like 72 or 58, then you just write it in words. That's what it's to save you writing. You know, I mean, imagine writing $1,345. People used to do that on their checks, by the way, and nobody uses checks anymore. So anyway, so more than 3 words, you write it out. Less than 3 words, you spell it out. So I believe that this should also be put up here, so that 3 words. So I could be consistent. Yes, Yvonne, you need to be consistent. Otherwise, you're going to confuse the students. Yeah. So here All right, less than 3. Basically, I remember it as if you have a large number, you write it out. If you have a small number, if you have a large number, you write out the digits, and if you have a small number, you write it in letters. That's how I remember it. Large digits, small letters. That's another way of remembering it. Okay, so on your when I write out 5-paragraph essay structure, and I've done that a lot throughout the class, that's a mistake. Okay, I'm supposed to write 5-paragraph essay structure because the number 5 is less than 3 words. So anytime you see me making that mistake, feel free to point it out to me. Yvonne, you're making the wrong mistake, or something like that. Or Professor H, you're making the wrong mistake. You're supposed to write out 5-paragraph essay structure. So I have 72 shoes. So here it's less than 3 words. And so if it's less than 3 words, you write in, I have 72 shoes. We will have the report for you in 72 hours. That's incorrect. So you want to write, we will have the report for you in, you write it out if it's a small number. So we will have the report for you in 72 hours. And I think I did this already. Yeah. So that pretty much sums up how you do that. And this is the last topic for your practice, for your week 5 quiz. Standard abbreviations. Only standard abbreviations are used in academic writing. If it is not standard or it's not clear, always spell out your abbreviation the first time you use it in a paper. So for example, TESOL stands for Teaching English as a Second Language. And then after you spell it out the first time, then you can write in TESOL, TESOL, TESOL for the rest of the paper. In that way, the readers know what the abbreviations stand for. When you write a paper, spell out the abbreviations the first time you use it in the thesis, and then you can use the abbreviation throughout the paper. My English teacher used to say, always assume that your reader is stupid, or always assume your reader doesn't know anything, and it's better to spell everything out in advance than just assume the reader knows what's going on. Most likely the readers don't know what's going on because they're not experts in your field. Only standard abbreviations should be used in, here's an actual question, an actual quiz question. Only standard abbreviations should be used in academic writing. If it is not standard, then spell out the word or phrase for clarity. True, because non-standard, okay, so standard abbreviation would be like USC, USA, FBI, FBI, CDC, something like that. Non-standard abbreviations are things like LOL. I can't remember off the top of my head, but all the things that you use for, BFF, all the things that you use for texting, for you, for do it for you, or I ate you, something like that. All those texting abbreviations are non-standard abbreviations, should not be used in academic writing. So non-standard abbreviations, that's not considered correct English. So when we write our academic papers, we don't use texting messages. We don't use, so when we write our academic papers for class, or when we write in the forums, we do not use texting abbreviations because that is not standard English. That is not correct English. And I even had an 8th grader insist that the word you, Y-O-U, is just spelled you. And then his 2nd grade sister said, no, it's spelled Y-O-U. And then the 8th grade brother said, no, it's you, because that's what I use on my phone. And then the 2nd grade, his second grade sister ran to her grammar book and stuck the grammar book into the brother's face, saying, "And that's what the grammar book says. The grammar book is always right." And then she goes, "But you're always wrong." Well, that was so funny. We thought the whole thing was so cute. When the second grade sister was trying to correct the 8th grade brother, this was at an after school that I was teaching in Los Angeles. And in the after school, all of the different grades, 1st grade through 12th grade, all in one building, all in one hallway. And so when I was correcting an 8th grader's paper, and I was standing outside the 8th grade classroom, and the sister's 2nd grade classroom was right up the hallway, within earshot. So there I was discussing with the brother, no, you're supposed to, you is spelled Y-O-U. And then the 8th grade brother kept saying, no, it's the letter U. And that's when the little sister recognized her brother's voice and ran out into the hallway with her grammar book, insisting you, because the grammar book it was so funny. We were so surprised. We had no idea she was just going to come out of the blue, out of nowhere, and then shoved it into and then when the brother saw it, his face turned like red, and then he realized his mistake and stuff like that. So, the little kids know better, don't they? Because the little kids still believe in the books. Anyway, so we never used, it was very cute. We never used, this is in an after school. In after school is when all the kids get together and have enrichment activities. After regular school is over. And so that's when everything, and the parents would bring their kids to the, kind of like similar to Sylvan tutoring centers, similar to that. It's like a after-school tutoring center. Anyway, that's why the 2nd grader and the 8th grader were all together in one building. Anyway, always write out your abbreviations. Never assume the reader knows what your abbreviation means. So USC is great. So do you know what USC means if you are not local to Los Angeles? Well, USC in Los Angeles means University of Southern California, but it can also mean University of Southern Carolina. So that's why it's good to write out the USC. You are good. Is you are good, is this standard or incorrect abbreviation? And so here, this is incorrect abbreviation. And so here you have an actual quiz question. Which sentence contains incorrect abbreviation? I will text you the directs to my house later today. So this is incorrect. This is an incorrect because we don't use text messaging in our papers. That 8th grader had it all wrong. It was so cute watching the 2nd grade, the little sister rush to his rescue. She thought she was rushing to his rescue. She wasn't trying to make fun of him. She was actually trying to fix the problem for him. She did it out of love. She was too little to make fun of him, Anyway, you just had to be there. Do these sentences have correct abbreviation? Yes or no? The FBI distributes a most wanted list. FBI, yes. So FBI stands for Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's a government agency, so that is a standard abbreviation. My psychology course is taught by Dr. Smith, PhD, which stands for Doctor of Philosophy. Okay, so this is a standard abbreviation. So, are you ready to start the quiz? So if you can score a 100% on your quiz, then you are ready to take the actual Week 5 quiz. Large cactus plants, which now sell for very high prices, are being stolen from national parks and protected desert areas. Where is there a missing comma? And so here, you're missing after plants. Okay, when you have a relative clause at the beginning of the sentence, you need to have 2 commas. So after plants and after prices. All right, so you can look up appositives, restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. Which sentence contains incorrect abbreviations? Okay, C. I will text you the directs to my house today. Pick the sentence that puts the quotation marks in the proper place. Now you gotta take a look. So which sentence, in other words, which is the correct sentence? So let's take a look. A. Okay, it's got the beginning one, and it's got a beginning quotation mark. It's got an ending quotation mark. Uh-oh, but the "a beautiful mind" is not italicized. Remember, we have to italicize, so A is wrong. We got to italicize the movie titles and the book titles. Find a truly original idea. It is the only way I will ever. So here you have a beginning quotation mark, an ending quotation mark, and the title is italicized. B is the correct answer. Most students do get this right, by the way. I am sure you're going to think I'm crazy. So here the answer is you are, you're. Select from the following sentence that shows proper capitalization. A. I love my Uncle Bob because he always makes me laugh. When I missed my bus, I called for a taxi instead. So which is the sentence that's correct? So A is wrong because the uncle in Uncle Bob is not capitalized. B is wrong because when I miss the bus, needs to be capitalized. So C, with Grandma Janet, remember, when it's a name, then you capitalize it. If it's just Grandma, you don't have to capitalize it. But Grandma Janet, you have to capitalize it. Only standard abbreviations should be used in academic writing. If it is not standard, then spell out the word or phrase for clarity. Oh, that's true. Okay? That was the example that I gave about T-saw. Can you remember what that is? That's teaching English as a second language. Okay. My dad's favorite saying is, don't pull tomorrow's cloud over today's sunshine. Where is the missing quotation mark? Remember, when we have a dialogue, you need a beginning quotation mark and you need an ending quotation mark. So here you need a beginning quotation mark, so before don't. So the answer is A. Choose the correct sentence. I can't seem to find the keys. This is the first time you weren't late. If you aren't going to make it, please call. So remember that when we have a contraction, we always need an apostrophe T. So this is wrong because it's missing an apostrophe T. And this is wrong because it's missing here, weren't. Okay? Missing an, missing an apostrophe T, weren't. Yeah, that's it. So this is C is the correct answer. If you aren't going to make it, please call. So here you have your apostrophe T. Choose the sentence that puts the quotation marks in the proper place. A. In Jason Bourne, Nicky Parsons cryptically tells Jason, remembering everything doesn't mean you know everything. And so here you have the beginning quotation mark, but you're missing the ending quotation mark. So that's not, so A is not correct. In Jason Bourne, B, you're missing the beginning quotation mark here. But C has a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. So C is the correct answer. Which one shows proper capitalization? So here you have peaceful France, okay, that's capitalized correctly. Napoleon Bonaparte. This looks like A is the correct answer. This is not correct because when you have a word at the beginning of a sentence, you got to capitalize it. And C is not correct because France is not capitalized. So A is the correct answer. Which one contains the correct use of numbers? So remember, when you have a small number, we write it out. And when you have a big number, then when we have a small number, we write out it. We spell it out in words. That's a good way. We spell it out in words if it's a small number, and if it is a big number, we write out the digit. There you go. So here, B. When you have less than 3 words, we spell out in words the number. It took 5 weeks to find an apartment we liked. Select the sentence that puts the quotation marks in the proper place. And so here, the devil wears, in all of these sentences, instantly, even before I look at all the quotation marks, I notice that the devil wears Prada is not italicized in any of these. So therefore, none of the above are correct. Which sentence shows proper capitalization? So remember, when we have the names of titles, names of people, and proper nouns, all have to be capitalized. So it looks like C, because here President Abraham Lincoln, that's the title, the 16th President of the United States, both are capitalized. 14. When Karen's mother returned to college this year, the entire family had to help out with the housework. Where is there a missing comma? So when Karen's mother returned to college this year, then you have comma. So when a dependent clause comes at the beginning of the sentence, you have to put a comma there. So the correct answer is A, after year. I had left my wallet on the store counter, but the clerk called me at home to say that it was safe. Where is there a missing comma? So remember, when you have fanboys, you have to have a comma before the coordinating conjunction. So the correct answer is after counter. Okay, so B is the correct answer. If he understands the circumstances, he will make the correct choice. So which of these stands for he will? And the answer is B. The demonstrators protesting nuclear arms carried signs reading, "Humans have never invented a weapon, that which they haven't used." And so here, that they haven't used. Okay? So here, when the relative clause is at the end of a sentence, we have to have a comma here. So the comma is missing after the word weapons. Now it's correct. So the answer is B. In your opinion, which sentence shows proper capitalization? However, he quickly declared himself Emperor Napoleon I, and in 1812 led a French invasion of Russia. So when you need to capitalize the names of countries. So A is wrong. And so we know that the answer is B. Oops, it's none of the above. Hold on, because here Emperor and Napoleon is not capitalized. And in C, Emperor, Napoleon, and French are not capitalized. So none of the above, none of these are correct. So here, which of these, pick the correct sentence. So I'm going to put this one. Oh, no, because then that will change the numbers. All right, I was trying to put them all on one page, but I guess not. Okay, so pick the correct sentence. Find a truly original idea. It is the only way I will ever distinguish myself. It is the only way I will ever matter. John Nash moans, in A Beautiful Mind. And so which one of these are correct? And so since A Beautiful Mind, none of these are correct because A Beautiful Mind is a movie title and it needs to be italicized. So the answer is none of the above, because you gotta always italicize the movie title. That's it. And so these are the correct answers to your week 5 quiz. And if you have any questions about the week 5 quiz, you can always email me. And so if you can score a 100% on your practice quiz when you practice by yourself, then you are ready to take the week 5 quiz. Okay, now getting on to the easy stuff. At least I think this is the easy. I think the quiz is the hard stuff. Anyway, so let's get on to next week's forum. For the week 5 forum, you will be peer reviewing each other's paper. Give actionable feedback the other student can use to improve his writing grade. So, as you look at other people's papers, ask yourself, does that student's paper have a thesis statement? Does that thesis have 3 reasons? Do the 3 reasons become the body paragraphs? do the topic sentences and body paragraphs relate back to the thesis? Is the thesis the last sentence of the first paragraph, or did he or she repeat the thesis and put it in the wrong place? Are each paragraph 5 to 7 sentences long? How many in-text citations should I have in my essay? So we use pie structure. So we put one in-text citation per paragraph. And so that we call it pie because P is the main point from the thesis statement. I is the one in-text citation. 80% of Americans are obese. So remember that we write out, spell out 80 because it's less than two words. And then you would write in, and then when we write an in-text citation, if it is a direct quote, we use author name, date, and page number. If it's a paraphrase quote, in other words, if I want to write in my own words, most Americans are fat. Okay, so let's say I put it in my own words. That's known as a paraphrase quote. Then, if I have a paraphrase quote, I don't need to put in the quotation marks. All I put in is Smith 2021. I also don't need the page number either. So that is known as a paraphrase quote. This one is a direct quote. And this one is a paraphrase quote. Because a paraphrase quote is when I put it in my own words. That's all you have to know, is that you put it in your own words, and that becomes, but even if you put it in your own words, you still have to cite it. Because where did you find out that most Americans are fat? Who did the research? So you always want to give credit to the researcher. So after you put in the main point, your first sentence, your topic sentence, you have your one in-text citation. Then, in the next part, you write 5 sentences about, oh yeah, most Americans are so obese. For example, in 1965, the coffins were so small, and now they got to make bigger coffins in order to accommodate all that weight. Ambulances have to be made bigger to accommodate more weight. And the reason why people have gotten so much bigger is because the portions in the restaurants, food sizes, have gotten bigger in order to attract customers. Anyway, so within the next 5 sentences, all you talk about is how fat Americans have gotten, okay? Using things that you know. So you only need one in-text citation per paragraph. So that's known as pie structure. We use pie structure so that we don't overwhelm the reader with too many statistics. Here's another example. So the thesis statement is, smoking causes lung cancer, throat cancer, and stomach cancer. And then you have your first sentence is the main point from the thesis statement. And then you have your in-text citation. 70% of smokers die of lung cancer. So that is the one in-text citation. An in-text citation is when you cite a source inside the body of your paper. I don't want to see any web addresses in my in-text citations. All you need is your author name, date, and page number. Now, after you put in the in-text citation, E, remember, E is the explanation of that in-text citation in 5 sentences. So here, if I say 70% of smokers die of lung cancer, that's the in-text citation, then I have my 5 sentences about the in-text citation. The majority of smokers die young of lung cancer. Lung cancer is preventable if you do not give in to peer pressure and begin smoking young. The chances of you getting lung cancer is slimmer if you do not smoke. Betty started smoking at the age of 15. She started coughing a lot in the wintertime. By the time her doctors discovered her lung cancer, it was too late. Betty regrets her decision to smoke as a teenager just because it looks cool. Now, I'm telling you students that if you want to have a professional tone in your paper, you need to get rid of you. So here, I have too many you. So lung cancer is preventable if a person does not give in to peer pressure and begin smoking young. The chances of a person getting lung cancer is slimmer if they do not smoke. Notice how it sounds so much more professional. I think I took out all the U's. It's hard to see all the you, because it's so easy to use you because that's how we talk. When we use you, your, that's conversational English. It's like if I'm talking to my friends and family. But if I'm going to write to my teacher and I want to use formal English, then I want to get rid of all the you, and replace it with a person or a persons. That makes your essay sound so much more professional. So getting back to, so you can use pie structure for your essay. So here is a really short APA lecture. So APA stands for American Psychological Association. It is the research notation system used in social science and business. A direct quote, so there are two kinds of quotes. You can have a direct quote when you cite a quote word per word directly from the author without any change. Then you have a direct quote. When you use a direct quote, you need to have quotation marks on both sides of the quotation. And you need to have the author's name and the page number. You can say, Smith states Americans are overweight, 2009-22, or you can say Smith 2009 states Americans are overweight, 22. When you have a paraphrase quote, this means that you summarize the author's point in your own words. For a paraphrase quote, you do not need quotation marks. You also do not need a page number. So you would say, Smith states that most Americans are overweight. Then you put in the date, or you can say Smith 2009 states most Americans are overweight. And instead of saying states all the time, you can look up signal phrase verbs. And so signal phrase verbs means that different ways of saying states. So you can say, Dr. Smith says, Dr. Smith notes, Dr. Smith believes, observes, comments, relates, declares, remarks, discusses, reports, explains, reveals, expresses, states, mentions, acknowledges. Or Dr. Smith agrees, rejects, argues, compares, asserts, admits, cautions, disputes, emphasizes, contends, denies, maintains, refutes, claims, endorses. So, and then at the end of your paper, you're going to have a reference list. This occurs after your last page. So list your references at the end of your paper. Put the references after the last page of your paper. And so here you would have the author name, Smith, John, then you have the date, then you have the italicized title of your paper, and then here you have the publication, name and date, and then last but not least, then you give me your website. So you give me everything, the whole shebang at the very end. And you need to use left hanging indent. This is what it's called, left in other words, here you have left justified all the way this way, and then you go like this. And that only occurs in your reference page. It's known as a left hanging indent. And you're like, I don't know how to do a left hanging indent. How the heck do I do that? So that's what YouTube videos are for. Okay, so if you go to YouTube and you put it into the search box, how to do a left hanging indent in Microsoft Word. So Microsoft, okay, and for APA references. There you go. Then you're going to get a gazillion people's videos on how to do a left, but this is what it looks like, you know? And it's only for It's only for your reference page. Oh, here I actually did it, so you can read this for yourself. And this is what your paper will look like, your outline anyway. So for the people who chose the I want to become a nurse, I want to become a nurse because I want to travel the world, help people, and get a steady job with benefits. So here you have your I want to travel the world. That's the topic sentence, which agrees with your thesis statement. And then I want to travel the world. And then you could say, well, when I travel the world, this is known as a topic sentence, and these are the supporting sentences, because the supporting sentences of your paragraph support your topic sentence, and then your topic sentence matches your thesis statement. So this is what I mean. This is what I mean when I say that you have a good thesis statement with 3 reasons which become your body paragraphs. Here you have another topic sentence, I want to help people. And so here, I want to help people is in your thesis statement. So when you have a thesis statement with matching topic sentences, then you have good essay coherence. And when we write an essay, basically we make a claim, okay? We make a claim, I want to become a nurse. Nursing is a great career, so that's a claim. And then your 3 reasons, okay? Then you have to back it up. Whatever you write, whenever you make a claim, you have to back it up with reasons. That's an essay. If I write a story, think of a story as a fairy tale. Once upon a time, Little Red Riding Hood was in the forest because she was walking through the forest because she wanted to go to her grandmother's house to deliver some food to her grandmother. That's called the triggering event. In other words, the first event that triggers the action. Then you have climax. As Little Red Riding Hood walks through the forest, she gets really scared because she notices how everything is starting to look spooky. All the animals ran away. No birds are chirping. And because a wolf was hunting Little Red Riding Hood, suddenly the wolf appears and tries to eat Little Red Riding Hood and the grandmother all together. Okay, that's the climax, right? So you have the most exciting part. And you notice that in a story, it's all about the events. Triggering event, then the most exciting event, and then you've got the conclusion. Luckily, a carpenter with his big axe happened to be walking by that same forest, and he saw Little Red Riding Hood in danger. So he used his axe, chopped off the wolf's head, and then that becomes the resolution. And so when we write a story, it's all about events. Triggering event, then you have the climax, most exciting event, and then you have the resolution. So that would be a story. Okay? But when we write an essay, we make a claim, and then we have 3 reasons to back up a claim. For instance, Little Red Riding Hood is an exciting story because I was so caught up with the climax, or I felt scared when she was in danger. Then I felt so happy. In other words, you have your 3 reasons, and then you back up the 3 reasons. That's the difference between a narrative story, which is Little Red Riding Hood, like the fairy tale itself, Once Upon a Time, and they lived happily ever after. That would be a narrative story that belongs in a book, a movie, anything to do with creative writing and literature, okay? And academic writing, and this is where people got confused, all right? When people got confused, they gave me a rough draft that sounded more like story, Little Red Riding Hood, rather than essay. Now, when we write a story, it doesn't mean that it's not important. It doesn't mean that it's trivial like a child's story. It's simply a matter of structure, okay? A story structure is different than an essay structure. And I simply use Little Red Riding Hood not to make fun of stories or people's stories, simply because most people are familiar with what's Little Red Riding Hood, what's that? And then when I say Little Red Riding Hood, everybody, oh yeah, they remember their fairy tales from when they were a kid. That's the only reason. So for example, in my announcements, I actually gave an example of a narrative story where I talk about one night my brother turned blue, and one night he just lost 30 pounds. He looked like a skeleton, and he wasn't breathing. Blue and not breathing is not a good combination, trust me. So so when my mother noticed that he lost all of this water weight, wasn't breathing, we then went to the hospital, sent him to the ER, whereby the doctors stuck these, I don't know what you call those things, into his arms, and they rehydrated him, and he was able to live. And then the doctors realized, oh, he's got juvenile diabetes. His body is not taking in glucose, so he was starving to death. And that's the whole thing about diabetes, is your pancreas is not working anymore. That's a story. I did not make a claim. I did not have to back it up. I simply told a story, and the climax obviously is when my brother's almost dying in the ambulance. This is a true story, and stuff like that. So I won't tell you the rest of it. But then, if I want to turn that story into an essay, I would say something like, I am grateful that I am not diabetic like my brother. Being a non-diabetic is much better than being diabetic. That's a comparative contrast essay. But anyway, I make a claim. There's a claim, okay? Being a diabetic is really hard because, okay, when you're a diabetic, you have to inject stuff into your body. You constantly have to keep track of your glucose. You have to, the whole family has to get together and learn. And that's what happened. So then I would make a claim with reasons. So when I make a claim with reasons, it's not Little Red Riding Hood. It's not the story itself. So in a story, we have event, 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 triggering event, climax, and then we have the conclusion, resolution. The guy with the axe knocks off the wolf's head, and that's it. And everyone lives happily ever after. That's a story. It's a nice way of writing. I could tell you that my kids love to write stories more than essays. They thought that it was much more fun. And yes, it is a lot more fun to teach creative writing than academic writing. Okay, I'll tell you that straight out. But you have to learn how to write an academic essay for those research papers that your other teachers are going to expect you to know how to do. And so here, you make a claim, nursing is a great career, or I want to be a nurse, and then you want to write, but why? Fortis is a great school, because. So that is an essay. Make a claim, and then you have 3 reasons. And so if you already have your story written up, all you have to do is just transform the story into an essay form. So you would say, the day that changed my life was when I saw my grandmother have a heart attack, because I learned to be mature. I had to take care of her. I had to be by her side at her deathbed, and I realized how precious life is. Reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. Then those 3 reasons become your body paragraphs. That is the difference between an essay and a story. The story focuses on the events, while the essay focuses on reasons. So that's the main difference that I wanted to get across. Everybody made that kind of mistake. Not everybody, a lot of people. So here is a rough draft example. I had a student who said, "What's a rough draft? I don't know what that is." So here I gave an example of somebody's rough draft. All right, I think that this rough draft follows this. I want to travel the world. So basically, pre-writing is when you have this outline. Okay, you're writing it out. You could write the outline as a mind map. You could write it like this kind of a chart. Anything that helps you visualize the paper. That's pre-writing. Then I'm going to transfer this outline into a paragraph. 5 paragraphs that's double-spaced, and you indent 5 spaces, the first line of every paragraph, and this would be your rough draft. More or less would look like this. Okay, And in your introduction, you would write 5 background sentences. You have a hook, 5 background sentences, and your thesis statement. So here, so in other words, you write the 5 sentences in your intro, background sentences, that introduce your thesis statement. I have always wanted to become a nurse since I was a little girl. I love being with people. I love interacting with people. I've always had a lot of compassion and love to see people heal. I have sacrificed so much for my children to get to where I am today, to become a nurse, to come to Fortis. I have even moved to another state to further my education in nursing. So there you have the 5 background sentences. Now you have your thesis statement. I want to become a nurse. You got topic, opinion, and reasons. So here you have, I want to become a nurse because I want to travel the world, help people, and get a steady job with benefits. So here you would have, I want to travel the world, and this whole thing, this whole paragraph is about why she wants to travel the world. She wants to visit the capitals of Europe, or she wants to be able to have a job and travel at the same time. She wants to help people. She loves making people happy. And so this whole paragraph, so here you have the topic sentence, I want to become a nurse to help people. And then here you have your supporting sentences that then describe the topic sentence of why you want to help people. As a certified nurse assistant, I love seeing people happy. And notice how I wrote out certified nurse assistant first. Then I can use CNA throughout the rest of my essay. So I love seeing people happy, and as a CNA, I was able to have compassion and the expertise to treat their ailments, to heal them and make them happy. Seeing my patients recover is one of the main joys of nursing. To better serve more patients, I want to go back to nursing school and get more degrees so that someday I can help even more people and become a nurse practitioner. I want to be a nurse so I can have a job with benefits. I'm tired of part-time jobs that go nowhere and pay wages that are below the poverty line. I want to be in a career where I am well respected, well paid, where I can follow my passion of helping people. I want to turn my passion of helping people and my love of travel into a career. So that's why I want to become a travel nurse. I can get benefits and never worry about having to pay for my medical bills while traveling the world. And I want to be in a high-demand, steady, full-time career. And then you have your conclusion. So your conclusion, you restate your thesis statement and summarize the highlights of your essay. In conclusion, I want to be a nurse so I can travel the world, treat people, and get a steady job with benefits. Then you summarize the highlights. I want to be able to travel to any country, help people, have the opportunity to learn many languages. I like people of all nationalities. I love bonding with people and helping their families. And I have the patience and compassion to help people. So having compassion, to me, is a major component of being a good nurse. In addition, being a nurse will allow me to have a full-time, well-respected job with benefits. Someday, I want to open my own nursing business and be my own boss. So that is your rough draft, okay? This is how we turn this outline, pre-writing, into writing. And then in week 5, this student, whoever wrote this, is going to post this whole thing into her week 5 forum. And then you are going to look at other people's essays and you're going to say, gee, yes, Jan, you've got a really great thesis statement because you placed your thesis statement as the last sentence of the first paragraph. And you know what? I agree with you. Me too. I also want to travel the world and have a full-time job, just like you. Something like that. So that could be, but you know what? You use too many I all the time. You have too many simple sentences. So I think you could put your sentences together more with compound and complex sentences or something like that. This is why we learn sentence structure, so we don't have choppy sentences and we can combine, especially if you're using if you're going to use the same subject over and over and over again, then you can combine sentences with similar subjects together, okay? So that's why we learn sentence structure. And this, yes, this student used too many simple sentences and needs to, but that's what you do when you look at other people's essays. And if you want more examples of this particular how to do the peer review, you can look at my what is a peer review PowerPoint in my week 3 lecture, in which I give a ton of, So for essay, that's it. I believe that's it for this entire, So I give other examples, of how to write an essay, and here you have more stuff on how to write an essay, how to do your, And so for essay 1, you don't need to have APA in-text citations. That's up to you to practice. But your essay 2, you'll be required to have one in-text citation and one reference, at least one APA reference. But for essay 1, it's voluntary. So here is an example of pie structure. I became a nurse to help people, so that's P for where I got that topic sentence that matches the thesis statement. Main point, P stands for main point. Nursing is a highly respected field with high job satisfaction. So if you want to find in-text citations, you can go and look up benefits, Google benefits of nursing. Okay, that's where this person got it from. Then you put in, after you put in your topic sentence, then you put in one in-text citation, then you write about why, write about your in-text citation in 5 sentences. So that's pie structure, which I've already gone over. So for week 4, I think that's it, yeah. So for week 4, you only have this one assignment to do. You have no quizzes in week 4. You have a quiz in week 5, that's next week. And you have no forums. So this week, you just have to focus on transforming your outline, pre-writing outline, into a rough draft, into the 5-sentence rough draft that I just showed you. And if you have any questions at all, you can always email me. So I'm going to stop this share. And I want to say, it's been a pleasure doing this lecture for you. And if you have any questions at all, you can always email me. So here I am logging off for this week, and I hope to see all of you next week, and have a great summery week.